What's happening, everybody? This is Hayden Adams with A Designer Who Codes. I come bearing some bad news. For me, and this is really sad in my own heart, Netlify CMS really is dying. I took a look at the GitHub repo after someone notified me on Twitter, and sure enough, 10 months ago, 10 months ago, 9 months ago, really this hasn't been touched in a long while. So much so we have 766 issues, we have 86 pull requests. We're in bad shape. And I really love using Netlify CMS because it's just so gosh darn easy. Well, the good news is there's a replacement. And the replacement looks a heck of a lot like the Netlify CMS. Welcome, StaticCMS. Same title, open source content management, even the same kind of picture they have. The beginner's guide to brewing is right down here. In this video, I want to show you how we can take an existing project that we have set up using Netlify and implement the StaticCMS. And with that, let's get started. Alrighty, so I have an existing project that's built in Netlify CMS. So if I head over to Netlify CMS and go into the admin, what I will get is the Netlify CMS banner. I will log in and just like that, put my email address in and my password, and it all works fine. Now this is all courtesy of the YAML file. So I have the config.yml, get gateway, collections. It's all built as if we were in Netlify CMS already. I do a video that talks about how to build this all from scratch, which I'll put a link to in the description below. So what I want to do is I want to duplicate this folder so I can mess around with it. What I'm going to do is go back out of my 179 Netlify CMS folder. I'm going to make a duplicate. So let me do one thing. I'll take out those node modules. And I'm going to do is I'm going to say 179 will duplicate you. And then I'm just going to quickly say, and here we will say not Netlify CMS, but Static CMS and Gatsby. Yes, I have a finished version below, which I'm referencing to make sure I don't make any mistakes. So if I go into this folder, I'm going to take out my Git folder because I'm going to make a new Git repository on this one. I'm going to go out of this inside and I'll say CD 179. It's going to ask me which one. I'm going to say I want the static CMS in Gatsby. And for right now, I will bring back all my node modules. This will take a quick second or two. While this is bringing all the node modules back, which we're then going to take out a few of them afterwards, I'm going to head into my package.json file. So I'm looking for the package.json file for this one. And what we'll find in here are two plugins that we have to get rid of. One is the Gatsby plugin Netlify CMS version right here. This one has to go. It's just no longer useful. I'm so sorry to see it go. And the second one is the Netlify CMS app right down here as well. Those two I got to get rid of. We're going to bring in the static CMSs as a result. It's just about done. Perfect. We have our node modules. So what I want to do is, since I'm using Yarn for my project, I'm going to say yarn remove and drop in that yarn remove. You'll see it go away. The next thing I have to do is remove this package. Gatsby plugin Netlify CMS will be the next one I have to remove. Give it a second or two to work, and yarn remove it is. Drop that in. So those two are going away. Bye-bye. And just like that, maybe. So we are uncoupling our project to Netlify CMS. So let's now go into Git, put this repo up, and then connect to Netlify to make sure it's all working properly. Make the screen a little bit larger. I'm going to head over to GitHub. Do a new project, and what I will do is I'm going to call this 179. Let's just use the same exact wording. So what I'll do is copy and paste it in, hit private for right now, create repository, and drop in my code. Yep, do a git add star, git commit am, and I'll say initial push. And git push origin main. And just like that, these pictures are pretty big that I do have. I was showing off the power of Gatsby images a couple of videos ago, so it will take a few seconds longer to push up the Las Vegas, the Lima, the New York, and the Venice picture, but it should be a few more seconds before everything works and it's there. And like magic, it's all there. So we'll connect the 179 to Netlify. So we'll head to netlify.com. Maybe. There we go. Maybe. Come on, computer, you got this. And we'll hit the login button. And let's actually connect this project up to Netlify. I will start or import an existing project. Since I do use my little number system, I will type 179 here in this one. The way I find things these days. And I do have, this one's not going to be the Netlify CMS, but the StaticCMS in Gatsby. And while this is running, I'll deploy the site. And while that's running, what I'm going to do is just restart Gatsby to make sure it's all working successfully. So what I'll do is I'm going to say Gatsby develop and make sure it's running with no problems. It shouldn't have a problem again, but then again, we never say never. So I want to double check to make sure it's all working successfully and compiling the Gatsby files. Because Netlify and the now StaticCMS both use, oh, you know what it was? The Gatsby plugin is a plugin. See, I should always run that first. So I know Netlify is going to fail. There's no need to check that one out. I'm going to go to the Gatsby config, and sure enough, I have to pull. So sad to see you go. It's been a great time, Gatsby plugin Netlify CMS, but you gotta go. So I'm not going to bother doing a git add for a second. I'm just going to do a Gatsby develop. Let's actually run this first to make sure it works, because we already know Netlify is going to fail because that plugin failed. And sure enough, everything's still working successfully. I said that before, so I don't want to do a golf clap too fast, but I want to see to make sure it's going to work fine. And again, I do have those big files at the very beginning. I was showing off again how to pull them from big to small. And sure enough, the Netlify CMS, which I should change to StaticCMS. So you know what? Let's go to Pages, Index. And in this case, it's not Netlify CMS. It is StaticCMS. And now we have StaticCMS to work with. So now this is working fine. I will then go ahead and go git add star, hit commit, and then what I'll do is fix plugin in Gatsby config, git push origin main. So now what we should do is let me double check to make sure it's working. Again, it did fail, which I was expecting it to. And building, and let's call this one site settings. Let's give it a new name. Let's call this one 179. Let's just keep it all the same. Oh, I didn't actually finish saving that URL apparently. So I'm just going to call it 179 static, just like that. Again, we should be good to go on this one, static CMS and Gatsby. Let's take a look at our overview. It is still building. And in a few more moments, this should be working pretty successfully. Again, I never say never. It worked okay over here, so it should work okay over here within the deploy log. So I'm fingers crossing. The project works without having to worry about those plugins in the first place, so we should be good to go. But of course, I can't go into my admin because I don't have the plugins yet. So I can only work within the actual markdown files in my content folder and my static folder. Give it a few more minutes to talk. It's like a live TV. I'm trying to talk through the way it's going down on the successes and the totals. I just have to wait. I thought I could do them simultaneously. I rushed it, and sure enough, the Gatsby config got me because I forgot to pull the plugin over there as well. So we should be good to go. Oh, that's always a good sign. Functions building or bundling. Deploy site. Yes, it does have to push up those big files. I did not resize them properly. And sure enough, we got ourselves a project right here. Looks great. But of course, I can't go to admin. So we now pulled the plugins, let's actually bring in the new plugins. The first plugin I want to use is one from npm.js, and that's the StaticCMS app. I'm actually going to use the app one and not the core one. That one just worked better for me. So I'm going to copy this StaticCMS/app at the bottom. And what I'll do is I'm going to say yarn add and then StaticCMS app. This is going to go ahead and build this into my project. If we take a look at our package.json, we should find, make sure I got the right ones open up here before I make a mistake here. 179 StaticCMS, perfect. Package.json. What I'm looking for is perfect. The StaticCMS/app at version 128. This is a fresh, new, recently updated version. It's looking great. The next thing I want to do, of course, is use the platform templates. And in Gatsby, they have a StaticCMS Gatsby actual plugin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this from a different screen and paste over here in my browser. And what you're looking for is the gatsby-plugin-static-cms. Now this is for version 5. Hello, toolbar. So version 5 of Gatsby's plugins does include this plugin. Rock and roll. So I'm going to copy this one right here. You can also copy the core. I kind of did it in reverse, which to me is just how I did things. So I'm then going to say yarn add and drop it in. And of course, this being a Gatsby plugin, we do want to use the StaticCMS. We'll drop it in. We also have to go back to our Gatsby config. The one I made a mistake on, hopefully I won't forget it again. Let's drop it in. So far, so good. What I'll do is let's do a git add because we have to actually do on Netlify to make sure it's working. So we'll say to new plugins and push it up onto Netlify. So now that we have that up and running, we are using the Git gateway within Netlify. So I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to Netlify, and in the site overview, it should be building. I'm going to assume it's going to build properly. Again, I'm going to golf clap it because I'm never 100% sure until it does say publish. But what I want to do is head down to identity. I'm going to enable this identity for this project. All right, so we got this part. We have to scroll a little farther down, keep it going, and we're looking for our Git gateway. Click this button, it's going to authorize it, and sure enough, we're all set to go there. Now this will authorize, if we head to the very top for the integrations, the identity should be all set to go. So I'm waiting for Netlify to further push this one. It's still building. Hopefully no errors. We should be going fast. Yep, that's correct, Netlify. We're doing it. Netlify/Gatsby. So again, I have to wait for this to build a little bit further. So while we're doing this, let's just do one last thing here. Let's take a look and make sure it's working on our computer, on our development server. Since we're running both at the same time, why not? So this should kick into gear. And we're probably going to have that one warning message. This is totally fine. It'll warn about an expression that's coming up. And we're good. Yes, you will notice the no modules dependency of an expression. Totally fine. But we should get now is the StaticCMS. Notice it's not Netlify CMS. Is running at localhost 8000/admin. How cool. And sure enough, if I come over here, I'm going to go over to Chrome for a second. Drop that in. It does say StaticCMS login with Netlify identity. That's awesome. We haven't done it yet on the other side, so we're going to wait a few more minutes. And we're live. Sweet. Let me make sure I close down these other ones just so I don't want to get them all confused in there as well. All right. Make sure it's all working. So the integrations, what I'm going to do is add myself, identity, view, invite users. I will send myself an invite and send. And let's go to my email and take a look and see what I got. I have to somehow get a login first. I do have a login. So what I am going to look at is right here. So again, you've been invited to create a user at 179 StaticCMS in Gatsby Netlify.app. Here's the good and bad part. So if we then, I'm going to copy this link for 1 second. Let's take a look at this URL structure. So by default, it adds the URL and then the invite token, and that's all it is. So if I click this, what's going to happen is, well, nothing. That's because we don't have the identity widget pulling up on the home page. Now, if I were to just adjust this URL, what I can say is admin /, and now what happens, it does come up, complete your sign up. And if I log in, signing up, fingers crossed that everything's going to work successfully. And it takes a few minutes longer to kick into gear, but there are our travel packages. We also had a Venice in my local one that I built, so it was not online, but Venice did show up in a good way. So if I then close this one down, we still have Content Manager. And if we go back to the website, there we go. We've got Las Vegas, Lima, Peru, New York, and Venice. So if I want to change this one, let's say we're going to do New Year's Eve at New York. I kind of built this fake travel site. So if I want to change the New York one to say New York, and we'll say New York on New Year's Eve. So let's just publish this one. I'm not worried about the view either. To me, I do it half the time like this when I work inside of Netlify /now static. But let's publish this and let's see what happens. Because at the end of the day, can this work? So if we refresh the page, what we should get is now it's building and it's updating travel packages New York. So what should happen after a few minutes is that this is going to rebuild and give it a few seconds longer. And what we will have is on this project, we're going to see New York, New Year's Eve. And that's the power of StaticCMS. Now, as you saw before, I had to manually add the word admin. And while this is building, I'll talk about this because there is a little bit of a hiccup in a way that you can kind of work around if you need to. So I want to show you two ways of going about how the approach you can take to solve that non-admin situation going on where if I just click the link, it didn't work. So in the meantime, if I refresh this page, we should eventually get is New York on New Year's Eve. It is working successfully. Yay, StaticCMS. So about that problem with the Netlify identity widget. So what we want to do is two things. We can choose which way we want to pick our battles here. The first one's free and the second one is paid with Netlify Pro. What I want to do is I want that identity widget to come up right away on the home page. But here's the thing. If we head back over to, where is that one guy? What I'm looking for is the gatsby-plugin-static-cms. If we look at it right down here, that I had the page pulled up, but I guess I closed the window. If we scroll down, by default, where'd it go? Come on. That identity widget will show up, but it's going to show up on the admin page. It won't show up by default on the home page. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring the widget in manually just because I want to show up on the home page. It won't redirect, but at least it will allow me to at least log in, register, or change my password. What I'm going to do is, since I'm already in the build, or the develop, I should say, I'm going to head over to the source, the pages, and in the index file, what I can do is I can use the script component of Gatsby. So if I want to bring in this widget manually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say import. Actually, I take that back. I already have the GraphQL up there. Let's go up here and say script. There we go. And what the script does, yep, it's defined but never used, is it puts this script area inside of the head tag. So right within layout, I'm going to say script, and the URL, the source code that I want to bring in is this Netlify identity widget. So I'm going to say script source equals, oops, double equals in that way. And now I bring in that identity widget. You can find that widget if I just do a quick Google search, or maybe it didn't work. The perils of doing this almost live. But what I can find is, here it is, the 0config identity widget, which is still there. And yes, it's a couple years old. I'm not going to worry about that. The fact of the matter is I can pull that source file right here is where I found it. And I'll also put a link to this file below as well, just so you have it. I'm going to self-close this. So I'll say / and then I will close it. And now when I rebuild this, we should have no errors. Yep, we're still warning that one problem. Not going to worry about it. And if I say git add, git commit, and let's say in this one, then we'll say added widget. And now what I'm going to do is just push it up to Netlify. Oh, what did I do? Something. Let's see what's going on here. StaticCMS, git add widget. Did it not want to go? Oh, you know what it was? I changed the content up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back for one quick second. Let me just save this and just where it was before. So I'll go there. I have to do a git pull. I've got two. All right. So I am back. I had to merge the branches and took about 5 or 6 keystrokes, but we are back in action. Let me head back over to Netlify and make sure it's all pushing successfully. Published, added the script to make sure I did bring that script widget in there. So now if I go over here and I just launch it, let me just make sure I close what I do not need. That one, and this one. So if I want to reset my password, for example, so what I can do is if I go into this app and if I head over to admin, and it should log me in. There it goes. So I'm going to log out as if I have lost my password. There we go. And what I'll do is I'm going to forget my password. And again, this is not going to link up properly, but we did kind of half solve it. So what we can do in this, again, is no cost at all in the Netlify world. So if I head back to my email, what I will get is, and of course, we shouldn't be in it, but we are. Oh, I just logged in on accident. That's what it was. But if I reset my password, if we take a look at the password link, and if I copy this link, I want to make sure I'm logged out. I think I hit the login by accident there. But if I do paste this, recovery token does show up. However, at least we'll pull up the widget to recover the password. So we're kind of halfway there. The only problem is, in a good or bad way, that I can log in right here, but it won't take me right over to the admin. So if you are working with colleagues or clients that you are logged in technically into the widget, so if I were to head over to admin manually and go right there, it'll take me right in. And sure enough, I'm already logged in. So there is like the first way, that's the free way in order to work with Netlify, not directing you automatically into the admin. In order for us to go right into the admin itself, we have to change the way the emails are sent. If we take a closer look inside of the site overview, and if we head down to the site settings, I'm going to head back down to the identity. And in here, so it will eventually show I have a user, but down here, in this email portion, it'll say invitation template using built-in template. Now I am on the pro side of Netlify, which this is required to have. It's about $20 a month. Don't quote me because they might change the price and I cannot change the video. So in this invitation template, in the confirmation template, in the recovery template, it doesn't have the word admin, but we want to put the word admin in. Well, the great thing is Netlify has already thought of stuff, which they are so awesome in doing. And they actually have a page on Netlify docs called identity generated emails. So if we take a look at this down the page, the invitation email basically just has an H2, a paragraph, ooh, check it out, and the confirmation URL. And Netlify says you want to customize this. If we scroll down a little bit further, here is the site URL, some path, like say admin, to the invitation, to the confirmation, to the password recovery, and to the email change. The good thing is if you do have the pro paid for service, then all of the templates are fair use. Now here's the thing that threw me for a loop for a few seconds, and this is really important. When we build this template, if we look at it, don't include the HTML head or body. I'm going, well, wait a second. Netlify is doing the build and everything comes in, except for one little folder that we've already used. If we do a quick search for this, it's like my favorite thing, Gatsby static folder. So using the static folder. So what the static folder does is it does a pass through. So if you put things in that static folder, it won't touch them, which means it will not put the HTML, the head, or the body in my template. So let's do this. I'm going to create a new folder and see if this actually works. I'm going to say Gatsby develop. And in here, oops, let's try Gatsby develop. Doesn't know what Gatsby is. But in my static folder, I've already got images and admin. I'm going to create a new folder and say email template. And in here, what I'll do is I'm actually going to put the HTML documents. So I'm going to create a new file in here. And in this folder, I'm going to say invitation.html. So I'm going to say new file, and under pages, not pages, but under static and email template, I'm going to say invitation.html. And now we have a raw HTML document with no head, no HTML, no body. I have no inline CSS for now. I can always navigate it later on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now add an H2 and say, you have been invited. And if I go back to the H2, get some space, let's test this theory out and see if it works. So in theory, what should have happened is that email template, if we head over to local 8000, refresh the page, if I hit /email template, make sure it spell everything properly, and invitation.html, there it is. You've been invited. And I can say, hey, you've been invited with an exclamation point. And sure enough, I refresh the page. You've been invited has been changed. This is awesome. So what I'm going to do next is I will say paragraph. I'm going to copy this one just because I can. And I will drop in, you have been invited to create a user on site URL. Follow this link to accept the invite. I'm going to paste this next one. It's a little bit long. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say paragraph link site URL /admin. Here's where the magic really happens. That admin invite will go right to the admin and accept it as an invite. If we save it, there it is. You've been invited. You've been invited. Site URL and accept the invite. Cool. So now let's actually push this up onto Netlify. Git add, git commit, and we'll say add invitation template, git push origin main. So while this is pushing, I can at least put the link into the template. So the link is /email template /invitation. So if we head back to Netlify, a lot of screens I know, all my passwords stored in Safari. If we head over to the emails, this is the invitation one. So the invitation template, edit settings, and your subject if you want to keep it the same way. If you don't, you can always change it. But my path is going to be email template.invitation. Now, one thing that did kind of bug me for a second, when I click that button, it kind of disappears. Maybe I'm just weird, but if I click it twice, it shows up totally fine. I'm the person that literally like pasted it in twice just to like make sure it was working in my weird naivety. So I was like, let me refresh the page to make sure it's really there. So if I come back down here, the invitation template, email template, invitation is sitting right here for us to use. If we head back up to the top, let's see how our build is going. Add invitation template is published. If we double take a look at this one, let me just close some other files. I don't want to mess up what I'm working on up here. So if I go to this page, StaticCMS and Gatsby, yes, I know I meant to click on the link. And if we then, whoa, let's not have all of the slashes. Let's just grab one slash, but there it is. You've been invited. So now if I want to uninvite myself and then re-invite myself, I'll go to identity, view, and I'll take myself out of this equation. Delete the user. I'm gone. I have to re-invite myself again. Here I go. And I will then send the email. And we should see now, I'm going to close this one, is you have been invited. And don't forget, we did put the exclamation point. And if I copy this link, now what I get is the 179 StaticCMS admin/invite. And now when I click it, what happens is I go to StaticCMS, I log in, and it already knows I'm logged in. So you know what? We're just going to go with it. I probably didn't take a change in effect to it. But now I'm logged in. So I can do the same thing if I want to over and over again. If I head back over to Site Overview, and I go to Site Settings, and I head over to Identity, what I can do is finish this process with all the emails. Again, this feature is available on paid plans. All these are as well, but I can add that URL to the confirmation template, the recovery template, the email change template, and I simply have to copy and paste those templates that I'm working with, and it really gives me the paths to all four of them. And instead of saying some path, I just have to have admin, but it's working fine. And that's the great part, is literally some changes is all it took to go from an old and dying Netlify CMS to a static CMS that I can use within Gatsby.